So in this video we're continuing learning about factoring, and we'll be looking at trinomials. Last time we looked when the a was 1. Today we're looking when a is not 1. Two objectives that you can factor trinomial when a is not equal 1 using the box, which we did last time, or the reverse distribution property. Alright, so factoring. Remember, factoring is just reverse multiplication. We are just looking at what two things multiply together, or sometimes three things, to get what you started with. So first, factoring, you must factor out the GCF, and you always want to make sure the leading coefficient is positive when you're doing that. If it isn't, you have to divide out a negative. Second, you're going to use the box or reverse distribution. Alright, so difference on this one we did before. Before we had the term out front, our leading coefficient, be 1. Now it is 2. These are a little more difficult because you're going to have to do a little more thinking than you had before to figure out what are the two factors that multiply together to be that. The first step is to find the GCF. There is no GCF. Our GCF is 1. So then I can just go and factor my 2. So I'm going to start with the box. That's method 1. So remember from previous lessons that the x squared term goes in one corner, and then the constant term, which is -6, goes in the other. Alright, so then you have to think of what multiplied together to give us 2x squared. Well, that's x and x to get us x squared. And what makes 2? Well, the only combination we have is 2 and 1, or a single x. 2x and 1x give us 2x squared. Then we need to find, just like before, our factors of -6. So our factors of -6 are -6 and 1, 6 and -1. Then we have 2 and -3 and -2 and 3. One of these pairs is what we're going to use for the box. So at this point it is just trial and error to figure out what the inside the box to give us the -11x. So we can try, and I'm going to do this in green. So we can try -6, and we can try 1. If that was the case, then this is -6 here, -6x, because -6 times x is -6, and then this one is 2x times 1, which is 2x. And then I got to check, do these two add up to our -11x? No, so that is not correct. So I need to erase those. Definitely want to do this in pencil. Alright, so then, so it didn't work here. I can see if it's going to work here. So I'm going to flip them around. -6 and 1. It does matter when we have something in front whether or not something will work. So here I have 1x times x, which is x, and then I get -12. -12 plus x is -11x, so this is correct. So I have my final answer, which is 2x plus 1 and x minus 6 are my two factors. Now, if this wouldn't have worked, if this one was out, I have to go to the next one. I try in both spots. If that doesn't work, I go to the next one. If that doesn't work, I go to the next one. I have to keep trying until I find the right combination. And remember, you may have to reverse these two like I did to see if it works. So method number 2 is doing it with parentheses and doing it more in your head. So we have to look at the first two. The first two gives us the 2x squared, which is going to be 2x and x. And then we're going to have to use this again. And you just keep trying. So if you would have tried with like 2 and -3, you got to see if your insides and your outsides add up to -11, which they don't. So then you would have to start over again. And then you would flip it around, -3 and 2. You keep doing it. Those have to -3, 4x, that doesn't work. You keep doing it until you find the right combination, which is negative 6 and plus 1. And once you find the right combination, then you have what it is. So again, it's going to take some trial and error. You have to work through it. It's not always going to be instant like it was in the previous section. Alright, so let's look at B. We're going to do the box with B. So remember the first box. First we find the GCF. The GCF is 1, so we're not going to worry about it. And then 6. Well, the only way to get 2 is 2 and 1. So I have 2x and 1x, or x. So then I need to find my factors of 6 that add up to, I need to find factors of 6, which is 1 and 6, 2 and 3. I do not have to worry about the negatives because I have 7x and I know it's positive, but negative 1 and negative 6 is also a pair, and negative 2 and negative 3 is also a pair. So I got to try these two. So I'm going to try 1 here, and I'm going to try 6 here. When I try that, I get, let's change colors. I get 12x, and I get x. That adds up to 13x. That is not the right combination. Okay, so then I can switch these around. So I had 1 here, I'm going to put 6 here, and put 1 here. That's 2x, 6x. We're close, but not close enough. That is 8x. So that one did not work. So then I'm going to try 2 and 3. So I try 2 and 3. I get 2x and 6x. That gives us 8x. That does not work. So start over. And when you're doing this class, it might be good to pull out the whiteboard until you find the right combination. And then I can try 3 and 2. That's 3x and 4x. There is 7x. So that is my final answer. 2x plus 3 and x plus 2. So it took me to the last time to find the right combination. Alright, so in C, we're going to do with the parentheses. There's no GCF. It's all divisible by 1. So I have 2x and x, because that gives me the 2x squared. And then I have negative 20. So I'm going to find all my factors in negative 20 that add up, or find all my factors in negative 20. So we have negative 20 and 1, 20 and negative 1. We have negative 10 and 2, 10 and negative 2. And then we have 4 and negative 5, and negative 4 and 5. So I have a lot of pairs to try. And just kind of doing inspection, I have negative 3 that the insides and the outsides need to add up to get us negative 3. I'm going to try the ones that are closer together right away because it's kind of small. So let's try 4 and negative 5. That is, we get negative 10x and 4x, which gives me negative 6x, so that's not right. So we can do negative 5 and positive 4. Well, that gives us negative 5x and 8x. Which is 3x. That's positive 3. We're close. So I know to switch the signs, because that would make this negative and that positive, which gives me negative 3 as my final answer. You're doing the same thing as you're doing in the box. You're just writing in the parentheses from the start. Alright, so the last two. Now these have a GCF, so I'm going to divide it out. They're all divisible by 3. And they all have an x. So on the outside I have 3x. And that gives me 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. Alright. Do my box. I have 2x squared and negative 3. Well, the only way to get 2x, let me change colors here, is 2x and x. And then my factors of negative 3 are 1 and negative 3 and negative 1 and 3. So not too many to try. Alright, so trying it out, I'm going to do 1 and negative 3. So I get 1x and negative 6x. Oh, I got lucky right away. That adds up to my negative 5. So I am done. So I have 3x, what I pulled out earlier, 2x plus 1, and x minus 3. Alright. So the last one is our GCF. Yep. These are all divisible by, I believe, 4. Yep. And notice, this is negative, so I'm going to divide by negative 4. See if that was enough. So that's 3x squared minus, I have my negative 4 on the outside, is negative 14x plus 8. Now these are all relatively prime to each other. There's nothing else, so I can go on and do my parentheses. We have 3x and x. The reason I know it's 3x and x because that's the only way to get 3x squared. Sometimes there might be more combinations. Alright, so I need factors of 8 to add to negative 14. Now since it's negative, I know I'm going to need a pair of negatives to get positive. And these are my only choices. So let's try negative 2 and negative 4. So remember the inside and the outside. I get negative 12 and negative 2x. And that's negative 14x. I got lucky right away from the start. Sometimes you do, and sometimes you might be your last one. So there are my final answers. Alright, to review, remember you always want to factor out the GCF and then you use one of your methods. Always check to make sure you have the right answer. So either you fill in your box, what's in every spot, to make sure it matches, or when you're doing here, make sure you multiply everything out and figure out if it equals from the start. Reminder to do reflections to get credit for watching this video.